You want a home theater solution that actually works the way you live, not a glossy spec sheet that looks good on paper. The biggest hesitation most people feel when they start scrolling through projectors is the fear of spending a lot of money only to end up with a dim image that needs a dark room, a complicated setup that takes half the evening to calibrate, or a device that screams for a new lamp after a few months. That anxiety is real, especially when you compare a $600 laser projector to a $2,000 cinema-grade model and wonder if the middle ground even exists. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Hisense C2 Pro lands right in that middle ground. It promises a 4K UHD experience with a triple laser light source, 2600 ANSI lumens, and a built-in JBL sound system, all wrapped in a portable chassis that can be moved from the living room to the patio with minimal effort. Before I hit the record button, I spent a few days reading forums, watching unboxing videos, and checking the handful of reviews that are out there. The consensus was clear: the projector delivers a surprisingly bright and colorful picture for its price, but it isn't a magic bullet for every use case. Let's break down what that means for you. First, let's talk about picture quality in the real world. The C2 Pro's triple laser engine gives it a native 110% BT.2020 color gamut and an E0.9 color accuracy rating. In a moderately lit living room, think lights on, curtains half closed, the image still looks vivid enough for a Netflix binge. The 2600 lumens push the picture above the typical darkroom-only threshold, so you don't have to black out the entire room to enjoy a bright sports broadcast. When you switch to a darker space, like a bedroom or a dedicated media room, the projector really shines, delivering deep blacks and a level of detail that makes 4K upscaling feel authentic rather than a stretched-out 1080p source. What you'll notice first is the size flexibility. The C2 Pro can project anywhere from 65 inches up to a massive 300 inches, thanks to its 0.9 to 1.2 throw ratio and a 1.67x optical zoom. In practice, that means you can hang a 100-inch screen on the wall for family movie night, then pull the unit onto a tripod and throw a 200-inch image onto a white sheet for a backyard gathering. The optical zoom lets you fine-tune the framing without moving the whole unit, which is a small but meaningful convenience when you're dealing with limited space. Now, the C2 Pro isn't just about raw brightness. The integrated Dolby Vision and IMAX enhanced processing does a respectable job of preserving HDR highlights. In a side-by-side test with a comparable 1080p projector, the C2 Pro kept the bright explosions in an action movie from blowing out, while still retaining texture in the shadows. It's not quite the same as a high-end home cinema projector that can hit 4,000 plus nits, but for the price point it's a solid step up from the typical budget laser units that often fall short on color fidelity. Sound is another area where the C2 Pro tries to differentiate itself. The built-in JBL speakers deliver a decent 20-watt output, which is enough to fill a medium-sized room without external speakers for casual viewing. If you're watching a sitcom or streaming a talk show, the audio feels clear and balanced. However, if you plan to use the projector for immersive gaming sessions or action movies where you expect a booming soundtrack, you'll probably want to connect a soundbar or a small AV receiver. The good news is the projector includes HDMI ARC, so hooking up external audio is straightforward. One of the biggest practical strengths is the ease of setup. The device offers 360-degree horizontal rotation, 90 degrees of upward tilt, and 45 degrees of downward tilt. Combine that with auto Keystone correction, and you can get a perfectly rectangular image on almost any surface without fiddling with manual Keystone sliders. In my test, I placed the projector on a low coffee table, angled it slightly upward, and the auto Keystone feature corrected the geometry in under a second. The VIDAA AOS interface is also surprisingly user-friendly. You can scroll through Netflix, Amazon Prime, and other apps directly on the projector without needing an external streaming stick. That said, there are a few hidden trade-offs to keep in mind. First, the laser source, while longer lasting than a traditional lamp, does still have a finite lifespan, roughly 20,000 hours according to the spec sheet. That translates to several years of average use, but it's something you'll eventually have to replace. Second, the projector's fan is audible enough that you'll notice it in a completely silent room, especially when you push the brightness to the max. It's not a scream, but if you're a night owl who likes to watch movies at low volume, the fan hum can become a mild distraction. Another practical consideration is the lamp's brightness fall-off over time. Laser units tend to dim gradually, and with a peak of 2600 lumens, you're already on.